Okay, so it's time for a channel stats video. I do this every so often. I'm just looking at some interesting channel stats over the last 12 months. Now, I could have compared these to the lifetime of the channel, and I've done that before on monthly, yearly, and lifetime basis. The most recent video I did that involved channel stats was to do with the tech viewers you guys are using to consume my content. Found out that mobile phones are the most popular form of consuming content. So I'm assuming a lot of people are on the go, they're at work, they're traveling, and I find that very interesting. That was the most recent little interesting stats video that I've done. This one I'm just looking at other stats over the last 12 months. So channel viewership from the countries of origin, the city people are watching from, the age ranges, and then some other little quirky ones that I've not looked at before, which actually is very, very interesting. So I decided with the viewership side of things in regards to the nationality of origin, or the nation that you are residing in, and the city you are residing as well, to go with the top five. And it's a very interesting how a lot of the same places turn up every time I do one of these videos. So on the country of origin of viewers, or where people are based, the top five is very, very interesting. Not necessarily the positions of nations in the top five, but the percentages. It's given me a good idea of what's growing the channel lately. So Ireland comes in at fifth in nation of origin for viewers, with 1.5%. I'm a little bit surprised by Ireland with the percentage, not the position. Ireland at times has had higher percentage of viewers on a smaller time scale, let's say on a 3-month or a 1-month period of a snapshot. But overall, over the last 12 months, 1.5% of channel viewers are based in the Republic of Ireland. Find that very, very interesting. New Zealand, similar nation in regards to population size and age demographics, comes in at 2.8%. They're roughly very, very similar in their population sizes, their economies being good economies, a lot of high employment, 2.8%. Find that one interesting that New Zealand is above Ireland at this time. The USA is the one that surprises me. Not that it's third on the list, but the percentage of viewers has significantly dropped off, and this is a trend that I've noticed from both the US and Canada over the last year and a half. Is the percentage of viewers either has basically plateaued, it's just the same people watching over and over again, or less people are consuming content from the United States and Canada. Canada doesn't make the top five. The USA does, with only 3% of all viewers of the channel over the last year are from the US. At points, more people were watching from the US than Australia. That isn't the case anymore, and I find that very interesting, considering that the US is sports mad and does consume a lot of European sport as well as North American sport. And I've done a fair bit of Major League Baseball, NHL, and NFL content. Not so much from the NBA, but we can look at doing some NBA content. But I am surprised with the percentage of viewers. Although in the last couple of months, I have noticed when I regularly check how the channel's doing, when I go into YouTube Studio, into the analytics, view counts from the US are rising again. They were higher in the past, there's been a bit of a dip, and they are slowly rebounding. I'm just so surprised that view counts from the US are at 3%. Australia is where a lot of the growth on the channel is now occurring. 32.9% of viewers over the last 12 months are from down under in Australia. I'm not surprised by that in the slightest, with the amount of NRL content and related NRL content. I think we can thank Paul Kent for getting the sack for a lot of the Australian viewers over the last 12 months. My Paul Kent videos charting his off-camera demise and he's the falling apart of his media career, were very popular, and they're still getting views now, even though he's been well and truly sacked from Fox Sports and the Daily Telegraph. He's a very divisive figure, but in general, Australia, even when I'm not making NRL content and I'm not making AFL content or rugby union content, I have noticed the Australians, you guys, our cousins from down under, will continue to watch the channel on the other sports that I'm making content for. So Australia, sports mad country. Am I surprised it does well? No, but am I surprised by the percentage of viewers in the last 12 months? A little bit. Not totally, but I am surprised with the UK's percentage dropping from what it was at peak, which was around 70 to 80% at times. It's now 33.7%. So I think viewership from the UK, while it's still growing, it's now taking up a smaller share of the overall pie chart. View counts from the UK have always been really, really good, but at times Australia overtakes the UK for viewership. Now, there's a lot of Australians who actually live in the UK, and a lot of people based in the UK also like rugby league and like the NRL and other sports. So I'm not surprised that those numbers are a little bit closer. I'm just surprised by how much closer, because I've noticed a trend over time as more nationalities and more people around the world watch the channel. The UK share is getting smaller. It's still the top dog, but the drop-off in percentage is quite noticeable, from a high of around 80% at one point to just 33.7% now in this snapshot over the last 12 months. For example, if I was to do the lifetime of the channel, the percentages would be different. The cities of viewership where people are based, so the city they put down or the town they put down as their location, is very, very interesting indeed. Very interesting. So I went with the top 5 over the last year. 5th place is Perth in Western Australia with 0.9% of viewers from Perth. Now, we've obviously seen recent news that the NRL was deciding not to expand into Perth, and that the Perth Bears, as they would have been known, or the Western Bears would have been known, that bid is dead in the water now. The NRL is not going to Perth, but I do find it interesting that nearly a full percentage point of viewers are from the Perth metro area in Western Australia. It tells me that there is an NRL fan base out there. There's a lot of people who've moved to Perth in Australia from around the world who are interested in a lot of sport, and I do think the NRL are being very, very short-sighted in their decision not to go down expansion in Perth. That's what I get out of that. I am not surprised that Perth is getting up there. It's a rapidly growing city. It's a very affluent city, and it is a sports-mad city that I think does get overlooked when it comes to Australian sport and global sport. And it's a place that I want to visit. Melbourne comes in at 1.7%. Again, it's one of the biggest. It's basically, if you look at Melbourne and Sydney, they're about the same size now in population. It's one of the 2 biggest cities in Australia, 1.7%. There's a lot of rugby league fans who've ended up in Melbourne, and not all of them follow the Storm, but I do, again, relating that to some of the decisions that have been taken in regards to growing rugby league in Australia. They could do better with their junior base in the state of Victoria and trying to grow the grassroots. The Melbourne Storm are a very, very successful side. I have no doubt on that, but there's also fans of all the other NRL teams that have moved to Melbourne. Also, Melbourne is the home of Australian football, as in the AFL, but also where a lot of their soccer players or association football players are from, and a lot of their association football fans live, and a lot of them do follow European club sides and have followed for a very, very long time. There's a big Balkan community, there's a big Greek community, and they're all football mad. And you look at the makeup of the Australian squad when they play at the World Cup, for example, a lot of them were born and raised in Melbourne and are of immigrant heritage, 1st or 2nd generation. London here in the UK comes in at 3rd with 2.3%. It's the biggest city on the list for population size. I'm not surprised London regularly pops up. Whenever I look at these stats, London regularly pops up quite well, and is quite well ranked overall in the viewership figures. You look at the English Premier League, for example, nearly half the league is based in London. And then you look at just when I do FA Cup match reviews, there's a lot of clubs based in London that end up playing. Football club histories, there's a lot of clubs based in the Greater London area, and a lot of these clubs compete for fan base and catchment area for fans. I've obviously done a lot of football club history videos. A lot of them are from London. Brisbane comes in at 2nd with 5.6%. That's to do with my content on the Brisbane Broncos. Not gonna lie. It's a rugby league mad city. Is Brisbane. It's a sports mad city. It's a lot smaller when it comes to population size than London, Melbourne and Sydney, because Sydney's number 1. It's about a little bit bigger than Perth by a few 100,000 people. They're both over 1 million people, about 1.6, 1.7 million people, I think, in Brisbane proper, and then in the wider metros around 2 million, something like that. I'm not surprised Brisbane is doing as well as it is. I mean, look, there's 3 teams in southern Queensland in the NRL. You've got 2 teams in the AFL. So I'm not surprised Brisbane is at 2nd. Sydney, as I say, tops the list. 12.1% of viewers over the last 12 months are from Sydney, and that is a big city. I think it's the second biggest city for population on the list, although Melbourne and Sydney, there's a debate around which one's actually bigger at the moment from populational size. Sydney, I mean, it's rugby league mad, we know this. There's a fair few rugby union fans in Sydney. There's a fair few association football fans in Sydney, and the AFL, there's a lot of fans in Sydney as well. It is a sports mad city, and again, very similar to Melbourne, big first and second generation immigrant communities in Sydney. A lot of them will have brought their sports fandom from the sports they watch with them. There's a lot of North American expats in Australia, especially on the East Coast, a lot of them to do with the tech industry and the armed services, the military. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic. Notice there are other cities here in the UK, across Europe and North America that would be on the list, but they're not in the top 5. That's the top 5. Now let's have a look at the age ranges, and there are some really interesting stats here. So the 13 to 17 age demographic, so school-age teenagers, 0.5%. There was a period where viewership there had basically just died off. Recently, sports mad teenagers are watching the channel again. It's basically a similar trend to the lifetime of the channel. Most teenagers are probably playing video games. The 18 to 24 demographic, the percentage there has dropped off, and I have noticed this. Over the last 12 months, 7.8% are in the 18 to 24 demographic. So my brother's age range. My brother's going to be 23 this year. He's currently 22. And I did raise the question, are younger people getting turned off sport for a variety of reasons? Is it because it's behind a paywall? Is it because it's too expensive? Are there other things out there that interest them with their disposable income? Video games. But 7.8% of viewers are aged 18 to 24. That has been higher at points. And over the last month, 2 months, that percentage of viewership has actually been higher. The 25 to 34 age range is the biggest chunk of the pie. At 29.6% of viewers are aged 25 to 34. So what was my age group until about a month ago. That's, again, helping to drive the channel's growth a little bit. The engine room. There are some months when I look at the channel stats, and we're talking in the 70s, 80s% on a month snapshot or a weekly snapshot or a 3-month snapshot. There are some variations in there, but overall over the last 12 months, nearly 30% of viewers are aged 25 to 34. So that's what I call the Ibiza crowd. Now, my age group now, weird saying this, the 35 to 44 age demographic. Yes, I am 35. I look younger than I actually am. I'm ancient. 14.2% of viewers are in the 35 to 44 age demographic. Again, at times that has been higher, it has been lower. That's pretty solid. In fact, all the age demographics going forward are around the same kind of range in percentage. So 14.2% are aged 35 to 44. 45 to 54, 16.1%. More people closer to retirement age are watching the channel than in my age demographic. I find that very, very interesting. Now, some people may have taken early retirement and gone into part-time work. Some people may be like a stay-at-home dad or mum. He may have part-time hours and have a bit more free time, potentially. Or they're more flexi hours. So that's something I can gather out of that. But more people between the ages of 45 and 54 watch the channel than my age group of 35 to 44. The 55 to 64 demographic, this one really interests me, 17.2% of viewers. So this is people who are just entering the age of retirement or semi-retirement. 17.2% are near retirement age. So my mum's age demographic. And yes, my mum does watch the channel every now and then. She does, keep tabs on how we're doing, and she'll watch the occasional video. She'll be in that age demographic. I find that very interesting that more people aged 55 to 64 are watching than 18 to 24. That one, in fact, a lot of these over the age of 34 really do surprise me, that more older people are watching than younger people, because the 65 and overs, so the pensioners, 14.7% of pensioners watch the channel. That one really does surprise me. Now, these are the people who've got a lot of disposable income and a lot of free time. And a lot of them are sports fans, and going to watch their favourite sports team play on a weekend is part of their retirement. It's part of their routine. It's a hobby. Some of them may actually still be involved in amateur coaching or sports administration in some capacity. Even though they're officially retired, they may still volunteer as a sports club volunteer. So there is a lot of interest in that older demographic. But the numbers, again, more people over the age of 65 than between the ages of 18 and 24, and the ages of 13 and 17, retirees rather than students, more of them are watching. So I find that a very interesting breakdown. The engine room of the channel is the 25 to 34 age demographic. That's generally always had the highest viewership, but I am surprised that a lot more older people are taking the time to consume the content that we produce. But they have a bit more free time, they have a more regimented, structured work-life balance, a lot of these older people, a lot of the older viewers, should I say. Some of them will be semi-retired or in part-time work, and those who have fully retired have a lot of free time, and they have more disposable income than younger people. So that's some of the things I can get out of that. Now, gender. When I say I have more content for you guys and girls, I do mean that, because 92.3% of viewers are blokes. Thank you very much. Women, however, 7.7% of viewers are female sports fans, and I think they're an underrepresented fan base when it comes to sport. I think when we look at a live feed of let's say an NRL game or a FA Cup game or a World Cup game, you will see a lot of women in attendance. You will see a lot of women in attendance, and I think when it comes to the online side of things, a lot of women get intimidated, and I've seen the comment section on some of my videos, which have got a bit toxic. For the most part, the comment section is actually pretty good. The community we built here and the Boffs army we built here, I suppose, have been pretty good for the most part. But a lot of women online hide their identity and pretend to be men, so I wouldn't be actually surprised if female viewers is actually higher. It's a trend. It's a trend on social media where a lot of, and in video game world as well, like on Twitch, and they hide their identity by pretending to be men. They make a false online persona, and so out of that male viewership, I wouldn't be surprised there are some female viewers. Really wouldn't be surprised. But officially, 7.7% of viewers are women. And I find that very, very interesting. I haven't done a lot of Women's Super League content, for example, on the channel. I just haven't been able to catch a game in time and review a game. But there are general spikes in regards to women watching on certain major sporting events. World Cups do quite well, major finals do quite well, and Olympic stuff does quite well. You notice the spike in female viewership in regards to certain sporting events. Now, the subscriber status of viewers. 87% of viewers are not subscribers. 13% are. And that is interesting. So people are watching several videos before they subscribe, potentially, or they just watch one and go, that's not for me, or they might see the content recommended every now and then, dip in, dip out, because the new viewers versus returning viewers is where there's a massive discrepancy with the subscribed, non-subscribed. Now, not everyone subscribes. Not everyone who watches the channel is a subscriber, but they'll dip in and out, but they don't want to be a subscriber, and that is fine. Some of the casual viewer, they just want to dip in and dip out, and they might see the content that we make get recommended in their recommended feed every now and then. The new viewers, overall, so the viewers watching for the first ever time, is 70%, whereas returning viewers is 30%. So out of, let's say, every 100 views, 30 of those viewers will be watch one video and then watch another video and then another. Now, that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to subscribe. They might watch a few videos, get a feel for the channel and go, this guy's not for me, or this guy is for me, this content is for me. So I find that very interesting as well, is nearly a third of viewers are returning viewers who watch more than one video, which is higher than the subscriber count of viewers who are subscribed and not subscribed. So they're the ones who are on the fence going, should I give that a subscribe and a like? How much content do I watch before I decide to dive in and support the channel? And we're reaching more new viewers as well. More new viewers are finding the channel for the first time, and that is very noticeable. That new viewers versus returning viewers is an interesting one. People are discovering the channel for the first time, and that is it is interesting how that then translates into subscriber count. So there we go. There's some interesting channel stats over the last 12 months. This one's a little bit more for the stats nerds. It's very interesting to break it down because I could do it, and look at the spikes on certain videos and go, that was very popular in Canada, for example, or that was very popular in South Africa, or that was quite popular with, you know, older viewers. So let's say the retirees, the 65 and over viewership demographic in age. There are certain little trends where you notice the football club histories, a lot more older people watch them. For example, less younger people watch them, more older people watch them. When it comes to a match day review, so next weekend I will be looking at, obviously, watching as much of the FA Cup as possible and potentially some of the Six Nations games. The viewership there will be wildly different. Some of the breaking news, for example, let's say a manager's got sacked. That's when I noticed the 25 to 34 age demographic, the viewership just goes through the roof. And the percentage is higher than it actually is. So you do notice some of these trends as examples. On regards to the nationality or the nation of origin of viewers, I am surprised with the US and Canada. Canada's drop-off has been quite marked. The USA, it's noticeable. However, in recent weeks, the percentage of viewers is actually climbing again, which is interesting. So I have to have a little look at that. And I have done a lot of North American-based content in regards to the major leagues in the US and Canada. So I'm a bit surprised that the percentage of viewers from North America has dropped off a little bit in regards to percentage. Australia and the UK continue to drive the channel's growth as well. So no surprises there, but I am surprised with the massive gap now between Australia and the US. There was one point when they were neck and neck in regards to viewership. In Australia, they just decided, we make better beer than you, we drink more than you, and so therefore we're going to beat you. So there we go. We like our Aussie cousins. You do come up with some great commentators, and just some of the greatest sporting moments have come out from Down Under, in my personal opinion. And it's a great friendly rivalry between the UK or England and Australia as well in regards to sport, with a bit of spice in there if you bring on Adrian Morley, with the quickest red card in rugby league history, just as a because. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. This one was for the stats nerds. I like doing that for the stats nerds because I know a fair few of my viewers do like advanced analytics and stats. And so there we go. Thank you very much for watching. And I will have some more sports content for you guys very, very soon.